We think it's best if you skip the gathering this year, Lila. We want a calmer vibe for once. My mother's text glowed on my phone screen, each word slicing with subtle cruelty. Your brother Matt is bringing his new fiancée, and we just want to avoid tension. I stared at the message, stunned. 15 years of tradition unraveled in a single sentence. My name is Lila Monroe. I'm 40 years old, and I'd just been uninvited from the holiday gathering I'd hosted since I was 25. For a decade and a half, I'd turned my brownstone in Philadelphia into a winter dream. Gourmet meals prepared over 3 days, rooms draped in lights, candles, evergreens, and ribbon, guests who left with full bellies and even fuller hearts. And now they wanted peace in Matt's one-bedroom condo in Baltimore, the same condo they once whispered was too bland, too corporate to feel like home. I tapped out a simple reply. Perfect. Enjoy the holidays. The response came back in seconds. Don't be dramatic, Lila. You know how worked up you get. Matt and Alyssa want something simple this year. Worked up. That's what they called my passion, my standards. And I spent 2 years restoring this pre-war brownstone by hand on weekends. They called me obsessed. When I turned my pastry side hustle into a 6-figure boutique baking business, they called me stubborn. When I launched Sweet Legacy, my party planning brand that landed features in modern living and food and table, they called me intense. Intense, always that word. I set my phone down and looked around my space. The tree wasn't up yet. It was only December 1st, but I could already see it. The handmade ceramic ornaments I'd collected from around the world, the antique mercury glass baubles I'd hunted for in Vermont, the vintage angel my grandmother gave me before she passed. I didn't feel angry. I felt free. My phone buzzed again. You're not upset, right? We just thought it's Matt's turn. He's engaged now, and Elisa's family is very proper. Proper, as if I'd ever been improper. Matt, who couldn't commit to Elise longer than a year. Alyssa, who'd once bragged about never cooking a meal at home. And here I was, called too much by people who'd never lifted a finger to host anything themselves. I opened my banking app, smiled. Then I opened a blank post on my business's Instagram page. Exciting news. This year, Sweet Legacy will host a special holiday dinner for 20 single moms and their children, right here in our founder's home. I hit post, then texted back. Not upset at all. I've got other plans. And I did. Real joy doesn't come from forced peace or picture-perfect evenings. It comes from purpose, from pouring love where it's appreciated, from setting your table for people who never call you too much. That year, my home was the fullest it had ever been, and I didn't miss the family that left me out, not even for a second. Plans that had been in motion for weeks, plans that would make this year unforgettable. Not for my family, but for the people who actually mattered. The next morning, I made 2 calls. The first was to my dear friend Jasmine, who ran the Kensington Children's Outreach Center. Everything's set, she said, her voice bubbling with excitement. The kids are counting the days. Are you really doing this, Lila? More sure than I've ever been, I replied, warmth rising in my chest. The second call was to my agent. Yes, my agent. Another too much move my family once rolled their eyes at. Contracts in, the producers are thrilled, she said. Food Network locked in your holiday special. They'll be filming the setup all week. I hung up, exhaling slowly. My phone buzzed again. 3 more texts from my mother. What plans? You always host Christmas. Are you traveling somewhere? Lila, please answer. I silenced my phone and reached for my thick, spiral-bound planning notebook. The same one my brother once mocked as a control freak's diary. Last year, it had meal timelines, lighting sequences, seating flowcharts. This year, it held something different. A knock at the door pulled me from my thoughts. I opened it to find Mrs. Beecham from next door, holding a festive tin of cinnamon pecan cookies. Lila, honey, just came from the co-op. Your mom was there. Is it true you're not hosting this year? The block's been buzzing. People plan their holidays around your party. I smiled and took the tin. Don't worry, Mrs. Beecham. The party's still on. It's just a little different this year. She tilted her head, puzzled but reassured. When I closed the door, another message came in, this one from Matt. Mom says you're mad. Don't overreact. You know how intense your parties get. Elisa's family likes things simple. Simple? There was that word again. I flipped to the centerpiece page in my notebook. Holiday magic, joy for 30 kids plus their moms. There were sketches of each room's theme: sugar plum forest, North Pole kitchen, gingerbread craft room. No, simple wasn't in my vocabulary, and it never needed to be. Let them have their dull little Christmas with polite conversation and lukewarm cider. I wasn't angry, I was ignited. My holiday was going to change lives, and they had no idea what they'd stepped away from. The next 2 weeks passed in a beautiful blur. While my family sent vague, guilt-laced messages, the Food Network crew filmed every golden moment. We transformed my brownstone into a dream. Every room was alive with color, light, music, and scent. In the living room, I stood beneath the towering fir, wrapped in glass bulbs and satin ribbon. This, I said to the camera, gesturing to the ornaments dancing in the light, is our wish tree. Every ornament represents one child's holiday wish. Granted. Behind me, a group of kids in matching scarves squealed with delight as snow machines flurried softly in the entryway. My family wanted calm. I created magic. And this year, for once, I didn't need their approval. I had something far better. If this moment moved you even a little, don't forget to hit subscribe. Lila's story is just getting started, and what happens next might just change how you see the holidays and yourself. The producer wiped a tear from her cheek as I showed her the delicate paper ornaments, each one crafted from the handwritten wishes of the children at Kensington Outreach. We transformed every note into something beautiful: a snowflake, a bell, a star, each sparkling with hope. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. New messages from Matt's fiancée Alyssa, clearly dictated by my brother. Your mom says you're ignoring her dinner planning texts. You're really making this awkward for everyone. Are you trying to ruin our engagement week? I laughed under my breath. Last year, they said my 7-course holiday meal was too much and that I was showing off. This year, my absence was apparently the problem. Then came the headline. The local baker transforms brownstone into winter wonderland for children's home. The local news had picked it up. A photo of the massive wish tree lit up their homepage. My mother called within 5 minutes. Lila, what is this article? Are you doing this to spite us? I watched from the window as volunteers strung lights across my front gate, humming as they worked. No, Mom, I said calmly. I'm doing this because while you're all chasing peace, 30 kids in this city have never known what a real holiday feels like. Silence. Then her voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. But, what about family? I didn't miss a beat. Exactly, Mom, what about family? An hour later, a voicemail from my father. His usual growl softened into something like concern. Princess, your brother says Elisa's upset. She thinks this party thing is about you stealing the spotlight. Can't you just come to their place for dinner? Keep it simple. But I wasn't about simple, not anymore. I was going over lighting cues with Jasmine when the front door opened and a gust of cold air swept through the hall. It was Matt, alone for once. He stood in the foyer, eyes wide, staring at the transformed house. The grand staircase was wrapped in garlands and gold. The dining room was now one long table set for 35 children and staff. In the kitchen, prep had begun for the baking lessons we'd film with the kids. Sugar cookies, gingerbread, and hot cocoa from scratch. What is all this? He asked quietly. I smiled and gestured around. This is what the holidays should feel like. Not just calm, but full of joy, love, and giving. Then his eyes drifted to the camera crew in the parlor. Is that Food Network? It is. Turns out my intense parties were exactly what they were looking for. The special airs on Christmas Eves. His face turned pink. So this is about showing us up? I handed him a folder. Inside were photos and letters from every child who'd be celebrating here. No, Matt, This is about giving them the kind of magic I used to create for us, before it became too much for everyone. He turned the pages slowly, his expression softening with each one. Lila, you should head out, I said gently. You've got a quiet dinner to plan, remember? Alyssa's family is waiting. Matt's voice echoed as he stepped out. The door clicked shut behind him. Jasmine gave my arm a soft squeeze. Your brother looked floored. He's not the only one who'll be surprised, I said, double-checking the last page in my planning notebook. Everything was right on schedule. That evening, my mother called again. Third time in 2 days. Lila, honey, your father and I were talking. Maybe we were a little hasty. Your house really is perfect for Christmas. And Mom, I said gently, everything is already in motion. The Children's Center is counting on this. The Food Network has their crew set. There's no going back now. She hesitated. I could feel her trying to weigh the loss, not of me, but of attention, of being left out of something that had become the city's most talked about holiday event. But we're still family, she offered. We are, I replied, watching volunteers hang delicate stars above the front windows. And sometimes, family needs to learn that peace doesn't come from silencing someone. It comes from making space for who they truly are. I hung up the call and almost immediately a text came in, this time from Alyssa. Mark wants to know if you need more volunteers tomorrow. I smiled. I'd already seen how much he was enjoying the process. I added his name to the evening shift. Maybe some traditions really were worth saving, just not the way my family expected. When Christmas Eve arrived, a blanket of fresh snow turned the city into something out of a postcard. My brownstone glowed with warm lights and soft music, each window revealing a glimpse of magic. The children began arriving in small groups, their coats dusted in snow, their eyes wide with awe. Welcome to Holiday Magic, I greeted them at the door, heart full as they stepped into the wonderland we'd built. The rooms were alive with joy. A cocoa bar, storytelling corners, craft stations, cookie-making classes. In the living room, the wish tree sparkled with ornaments made from each child's handwritten hopes. Mark had helped set up the garden lights the night before. Your sister talks a lot about quiet holidays, he said as we wrapped twinkle lights around the banister. But this is what the holidays are supposed to feel like. At 7 p.m., the Food Network special aired, Holiday Magic with Lila Monroe. I was too busy decorating cookies and handing out scarves to watch it live, but Jasmine kept me updated. The internet had exploded. Our little corner of Philadelphia was trending. At 8 p.m., the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there was Alyssa, her eyes red, her voice small. I just watched the special, she said. Lila, I'm so sorry, we were wrong. She stepped inside, taking in the warm glow, the laughter, the wonder. All these years we called you intense, but you were just magical. Behind Alyssa stood my parents, both looking stunned, equal parts ashamed and awestruck. My mother clutched a monogrammed handkerchief, eyes glistening, while my father just stared at the scene inside my brownstone. Children were decorating cookies in the kitchen. Others were laughing as they tried on their new scarves by the fireplace. The air shimmered with music, lights, and something even deeper. Joy. My mother's voice broke through the moment. The way those children look at you, she whispered. It's how you used to look years ago when you planned Christmas, before we started calling it too much. I stood in the doorway and watched their faces as they took it all in. The living room glowing with soft lights and voices singing in harmony, the warmth radiating from every corner. Peace comes in many forms, I said finally. Sometimes it's in the quiet, but sometimes it's in the chaos of joy. My father stepped forward then, without a word, pulled me into a tight hug. Princess, he murmured, we forgot what Christmas really means. Can you forgive us? Before I could answer, a small voice called out, Miss Lila, come quick. It was Sophie, one of the youngest girls from the outreach center. Tommy just found his wish ornament on the tree. I turned to my family and smiled. Would you like to see what real holiday magic looks like? They followed me inside, weaving past twinkling lights and paper snowflakes as we made our way to the living room. There stood Tommy, 8 years old, usually so quiet he barely spoke during crafts, clutching an ornament with trembling hands. Inside was a note. "You've been matched with your new family. They're here to meet you tonight." As his new parents stepped forward and knelt to his level, Tommy ran straight into their arms. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. Even the Food Network crew had paused filming, some of them quietly wiping away tears. My mother gripped my hand tightly. This is what you do," she whispered. "You make dreams come true." Across the room, I saw Elisa helping kids frost sugar cookies, with Mark by her side, leading a group in carols. My father sat in the den, now surrounded by a ring of children begging him for stories, his usually stiff demeanor replaced by a surprising softness. Later that evening, as the last batch of hot chocolate was handed out and the music turned gentle, my mother found me in a quiet corner. "When we said we wanted peace this Christmas," she said, "we thought it meant quiet. But this," she gestured to the rooms glowing with joy, "this is real peace. Watching dreams come true, seeing love in action. That's all I ever wanted to create," I said. "Every Christmas, every dinner, every little detail. It wasn't about perfection, it was about making magic real." The night wound down slowly. The children, sleepy but smiling, were safely returned to the center, except for Tommy, who left hand in hand with his new parents. The Food Network crew began packing up, still buzzing about how they wanted this to become an annual feature. As my family gathered their coats, Elisa came over and hugged me tightly. "Our quiet dinner tomorrow feels a little empty now," she admitted with a sheepish smile. "Any chance your intense sister could host instead?" I laughed, pulling out my planning notebook. I might have already prepped for that possibility. My dad chuckled from the foyer. "Of course you did, Princess. You always think of everything." And so, Christmas Day found my family right here, back in the home they once called too much. But this time, there were no jabs at my planning or side eyes about my decorations. There was only gratitude for the magic my attention to detail had created, and for the peace we all now understood differently. As we sat down for dinner, my mother raised her glass. "To Leela," she said, "who taught us that peace isn't found in simplicity, but in the joy of creating magic for others." I looked around at the faces I loved, some changed, some newly softened, all together again. Sometimes the best gifts come wrapped in unexpected lessons. And the truest peace? It comes from finally being understood. If my story moved you, even just a little, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me what part stayed with you. If you've ever been called too much for simply caring deeply, know this: your magic matters. Don't shrink. Create boldly. Love loudly. And if you believe in turning quiet pain into purpose, subscribe. Let's keep building something beautiful together.